You hear that? This is exactly what I can see. I can ride like this with my visor open all day long. No issues whatsoever. 75 miles an hour, even 80, 90. I know this isn't for everyone, but to be honest with you, I got tired of waiting for an aftermarket touring screen, so I decided to make one of my own. This is the screen from National Cycle for a PCX 150 scooter. And I wanted to take this opportunity to thank Sherm from the Facebook group for the idea and the inspiration to actually do it. He ended up using the screen from the Bergman, and he swears by it. He's very happy with it. So thank you so much, Sherm, for the inspiration. I also want to take this opportunity to thank the man, the myth, the legend, Quasi Motard. Thank you so much for walking me through the process. I sincerely appreciate it, brother. I know this screen isn't for everybody, and some people are actually going to dislike it. I personally don't like the look, but I need it to serve a purpose. This screen is not a permanent screen for the bike. This is a screen that I intend on using while on tour, covering significant miles for long distance touring, and so on and so forth, even in the winter to help deflect the cold wind off of you. This screen had a lot of work done to it to make it fit over the Batwing, and we'll have a detailed step-by-step process of how I was able to accomplish this later on in the video for the ones that are interested. The final dimensions as it is right now, the height is 16.5 inches. The width at the bottom is 11.75 inches, and at the top is 13 inches. This screen is level at nose level, so your eyes are over it, and the idea is to be able to see 50 feet ahead and looking over the screen, not looking through the screen. I don't want to look through the screen. I prefer to look over the screen. And we're going to go and test it out for a ride together, and we're going to see what the pros and cons, what issues we're having, how it's performing with the deflecting the wind, and so on and so forth. So if you had a need for a taller screen for touring, and the Batwing screen that came with the OEM kit isn't sufficient for you, maybe this will give you ideas. You don't necessarily have to do it the same way that I did it or use the product that I used, but this might give you an idea to come up with something that might work better for you. And this is all that this is, just a presentation of what I did to fix an issue that I was having. Hopefully this will inspire you to do something, whether be it the same method that I followed or you have your own. So let's go for a ride to test out the screen. Here we are doing 50 miles an hour. I can feel that all the wind is pushed way above my helmet. And if you take a look over here, this is at eye level. You see where the wind blast is? And we're doing 50 miles an hour. Let's take it up to 60. Again, right there. So you can ride comfortably with the visor open. Now, a couple of things I did notice. If you take a look over here, I'm gonna tilt the camera down and look up, but you see that there's an updraft. You see that? Coming from the ground up. And that's also a part of the aerodynamics once you put a larger screen. In addition, you do feel that the bike feels a little bit heavier, if that's the right term to use, but because of the sail effect, if I want to call it that, it's a huge sail basically catching wind. It's definitely going to affect performance, so just keep that in mind. At the end of the day, this is a sport cruiser, not a sport bike, so keep that in mind. This is a touring screen, so definitely because of the additional drag on it, you are going to feel it in terms of the agility of the bike, as well as fuel consumption is going to increase. Okay. Okay, something else I want to point out. I know you guys are actually looking through the screen, but I'm not. I'm looking above the screen. Right now, if you see the white van in front of me, it's a couple of inches above the screen. So in terms of line of sight, this height is ideal for me at the moment. So from the Batwing coming up here is 16.5 inches. And when I did the measurement from the gas cap up to here is about 18 and a quarter, I think. And I'll include that information. Keep in mind, if I want to look through the screen, I can. And if I want to look above it, I can. So it's right there. So it's actually just right. I can still feel the air coming around over here and hitting my torso. And that's going to be beneficial in the summer because you're going to have some airflow. All right, let's go on the highway so we can see how the screen performs at higher speeds. One thing I've noticed is that it's quieter in the helmet. There isn't a lot of wind noise. I don't know how that's coming through on the microphone. And in addition, I can also hear the engine a lot clearer, which is pretty cool. And also, I noticed that the horn, even on the highway with earplugs on, you hear that? I can actually hear it clearly. So the speed limit over here is 70 miles an hour. So I'll push it up a little bit over the speed limit so we can see how it performs. So far, it feels great actually. All the wind is going over my head. I don't have any buffeting, and you'd be able to see that on the camera, but it's very stable. I'm getting decent airflow on my torso to keep me cool. So we're doing about 80 miles an hour. And again, you guys can see where the wind blast is. We're doing about 85 now, and you can actually feel the bike revving more to try to overcome the drag, the additional drag from the screen. I'm deliberately placing myself in the wake of this truck in front of me, and you can actually feel it a little bit more because, of course, the additional surface area over here. So you do feel it. So I predict that you're going to be feeling crosswinds and so on and so forth. So just keep that in mind. If you're cruising at 65 miles an hour, it's actually very comfortable, very stable, and you can go on all day like this. That's pretty cool. When you go a little bit faster, the bike feels a little bit different. So just keep that in mind. We're doing about 75 miles an hour, and my visor is open. I'm curious to see what the sound is like. I can ride like this with my visor open all day long, no issues whatsoever. 75 miles an hour, even 80, 90. The wind is way above. So far I'm pleased. Right now I'm riding with my visor open. The wind is going over the helmet, but I'm also getting additional wind coming from the sides over here onto my torso, which is going to be reassuring for the summer, and it'll help keep us cool. So far, fingers crossed, I think we have a winner. The other cool thing is that it's going to catch all the bugs and save you from having to clean your helmet all the time. And I'm actually curious to find out how it's going to perform in the rain, if it's going to deflect the rain good enough, or is this updraft going to bring all the rain from the bottom up? Alright, let's overtake this truck to see how bad the turbulence is next to the truck while we're overtaking at 78 miles an hour. Not bad at all. Not bad at all. sure how telling this is, but this is the real-time consumption of fuel, so that we can look at it together at 58 miles an hour or so. I don't know how telling this is going to be, because I didn't do a similar test with the other screen, but logic says that definitely it's going to consume a little bit more gas than the other shorter screen. All right, let's go back and do a Rider's Digest and go over what was felt on the highway and final thoughts. That was a fun experiment. Here are my thoughts right off the top of my head. So it pushed the air over the helmet. I did not feel any buffeting. There was significantly less wind noise, as well as less bugs on my helmet visor. You also heard, or I heard, a better exhaust sound. I did not hear the whistle that I had with the original screen. I was surprised that there was good airflow around the torso, which is going to be great for the summer. And the awesome thing is that I was able to ride at 70 miles an hour with my shield open. I wear contact lenses when I'm riding, so it's pretty cool that I'm able to keep my visor open, especially during hot weather. Another thing is that I was able to ride two up. And the passenger also said that they were very comfortable and they were able to ride with the visor open. Now let's talk about the cons. The first thing that's going to come to mind, of course, is the look. I mean, it's tall. It's a huge screen, which adds to that sail effect and does affect the handling slightly. You have to keep that in mind when you're riding with a different screen of this size. Also, I did notice that there was additional fuel consumption. Some people are not going to like the visibility issue, and I'm going to demonstrate to show you what I see. I know that you guys are mounted at chin level, so you were looking through the screen, but I was looking over the screen. But you can still see the screen. So I'm going to try to illustrate that for you guys so you know what to expect. I placed an object about 50 feet away, and I'm going to show you from the rider's perspective, from my perspective, what I can see and how the screen affects my visibility. I'm 5'7", just keep that in mind. This is exactly what I can see. If you're interested in a screen like this, the rest of this video will document exactly how I was able to accomplish this. So if you're interested or curious of how to get this done, continue watching till the end. This is what the PCX 150 screen looks like when you get it. And then after you get it, this is basically the shape that we're going to try to achieve. So we do need to cut over here and over here, and then right this way. This is the measurement of the OEM screen. We're looking at about 11 inches. Okay, let's take a measurement of the new screen and see how tall it is relative to the other screens that we measured. So this is 18 and a little bit, or 46.1 centimeters. What we want to do is we want to try to get an idea of where we're going to be cutting over here. So we are using the first screen that I did, and I know that I need an additional 3 inches. So I'm going to put it right here and measure 3 additional inches over here and mark it. So 3 inches right here is right at the caution sticker, so I can use that as a marker. And the next step is going to be, we're going to be putting tape over here, drawing out the outline of the line that we're going to be cutting this way, because we're going to have to remove these wings. and then cutting it this way. And for reference, when you guys are working on it, you guys can use the OEM screen and take your measurements in that fashion and use this curvature to draw your line. That way it aligns and matches perfectly with the Batwing. Now that we've measured it, I put a small marker over here to know where I should tape. So the first layer of tape is going to be clear packing tape. And for whatever reason, this helps when you're making your cut to prevent it from getting damaged. What I recommend doing is your first cut needs to be to cut the wings off, this one and this one. This is going to make your life a lot easier when you're going to be making this cut, because you don't have to deal with this acute angle. That we have the packing tape on, we can start to layer the blue tape on top of it. That way we can protect the screen from any scratches as we are working. After we tape everything, now we're going to mark up exactly where the cut is going to be and the curvature as well. Of course, we need to make sure that the curvature is exactly like the OEM screen. So I would recommend using the OEM screen to get that line just right. Okay? But what we want to do is we also want to take a measurement this way and find the center line. And your best bet is to use a tape measure in this fashion. And I've determined that it was actually 27.5 centimeters or 10 inches, 10.75 inches. That will give you your center line. This will help us to stay balanced when we make the cut over here and over here. That way the screen is symmetrical. What you want to do is you want to find right before the curvature over here, so where the line is still straight, and then you want to continue that line to this point, because this is, you don't need to cut further. You don't have to worry about it being straight or whatever, but you need to come over here to approximately a line where the screen is going to end over here, and try to draw as straight of a line as possible to continue this line up here. What I'm using is I'm getting a cardboard. It's relatively a straight edge over here, and you can test it out at home by doing this, just to make sure that it's a straight edge, and that way it can conform to the screen to help you achieve that straight line, so that when you're cutting it, it's going to be a straight line and it'll look good on the bike. Once we do one side, we can take a measurement from the center line, which is right here, and determine this distance from here to here to give us an idea for the other side. So we know for the other side, 18.5 centimeters, and we can make a mark. To help us stay on course and draw a straight line. After we mark it up, this is what it should look like, and we could try to take a look at it this way to make sure. Regarding the tools that you need to make this cut, you have several different options. I've tested several different options, and I'll show you what worked for me. You can get this blade over here, which is a 10-inch, 32 teeth per inch bimetal, and it will do the trick, but it's gonna take a long time. For me, what I found works best is to use this battery-operated reciprocating saw, and this is the blade that I used, which is also a bimetal. My recommendation when you're doing this for the first time is, since we don't need this area anymore, this is going to be discarded, use this to practice cutting, to find what works best for you. You can practice doing this. As you can see, it does provide a clean cut, but it takes quite a while. So sometimes I've actually found that I use a combination of both tools to get the desired effect. But having used this, I know that this one is a little bit easier because it is a power tool, and also because of the fact that it's variable. So you can go as slow as you want or as fast as you want to get the desired effect. Just make sure you don't go too fast, because the idea is not to melt the plastic or the polycarbonate. You want to cut it just like this. You want it to be a clean cut. You don't want to burn it. So if we take, just to demonstrate the difference in tools, if you take this tool, mind you, this is also why we put the blue tape, because we need to rest this on the screen so it has a brace for the blade to actually work. Make sure you guys don't do what I'm doing. Wear your safety gear at all times. I'm not a professional. So do you see the difference in speed and performance? Definitely it's much easier with the power tool, but just like I demonstrated, you can do it with the hand tool as well. Okay, let's try to cut it together. If you had someone with you to help you to hold this steady, or if you find a way to brace this, it will make your life a lot easier. I'm working by myself on my own equipment, so bear with me. There you go. Depending on if you're right-handed or left-handed, it might be beneficial to make the cut from the inside of the screen. If, like in my case, I need to make the cut from the inside, make sure you put some tape so that it protects the polycarbonate over here as you're cutting down. And the second side is also cut. In order to make a clean cut, it's best that you're able to secure the screen. The problem is I don't have anything to be able to secure it, so I had to kind of think outside the box. The best thing that I was able to find in terms of the curvature to meet is this empty butane tank. And yes, guys, it's completely empty. Don't worry about it. So what I ended up doing is I put some of this protective cover that comes with the screen when you buy it. A few layers underneath the screen, which also provides better adhesion. I put some on top, and then I used a ratchet to kind of hold it in place. And as you can see, it is very solid. And this is going to be very helpful when we make the cut. All right, cut is done, but it's not 100% clean because it's kind of awkward to work and turn it. So we still need to clean it up a little bit. And this is what we are left with. This edge over here needs to be cleaned up a little bit. It's not 100% perfect, but that's expected. And if you can take a look, you'll see the edge. And we are going to file this to help shape it as well, to make it as smooth as possible. And then we'll use a lighter on it to try to seal it so that we don't get any additional cracks. This is how it compares to the OEM screen. And you can see how much additional length you're going to be getting. And that is close to 7¼ or 18½ centimeters exactly. Let's remove the tape. This is when you can use a file and to smooth out. Make sure when you see a burr sticking out, you want to push it down. You don't want to pull it up so that it doesn't tear. So you want to get rid of it in a downward motion like this. Okay, so we are almost there. After some filing to just take off the rough edges and to adjust the shape where I didn't do a perfect job. Once we do that, use a torch like this or a lighter and just go around. And thanks to Quasi-Motard, thank you so much, Aaron, for this tip. Go around over here on the edges just to help seal it and prevent any future cracks from spreading. Ideally, what you want to do is you want to use a heat gun and slightly bend it like that. I had a bad experience with the other one, so I'm going to try to avoid doing that with this one. So let's mark up where the holes are supposed to be, and that way we can prep to drill. Apply pressure, apply your weight, check to see if it's level over here and on this side, and adjust accordingly. Once you get it in the position that you want, where it's level on both sides, level up here, push really hard on it so that the screen is compressed to the well nuts. And in the center of the well nuts, put a mark. And now we are able to drill the holes so that we can mount the screen. Okay, now we need to drill the holes. What I found is that wood drill bits work best on this type of material. It gives it a nice clean cut. So we're going to start off with a small one and then cut. So we'll do the pilot hole and then we'll cut the larger hole. In order for you to find the right size, get your OEM screen, get the drill bits to make sure that that's the right size. And this happens to be 15/64. Let's drill the pilot holes where we made the markings. Go slow, don't go too fast. Let the blade cut it instead of melt it. And this is what you want to see, that it's actually cut and not melted. Now that we have the 4 pilot holes drilled, we'll go in with the larger bit and enlarge the hole. Now that we have the holes drilled, let's mount it to the bike and see what it looks like. Okay, let's put the screen on, but a note, before you install the screen, make sure you clean the inside really well, because you're not going to be able to get to it once you clean it. So clean the inside, don't worry too much about the outside, it's still going to get dirty. And don't worry about the top part, just the bottom section over here on the inside, make sure that it's well cleaned. And preferably, if you have plexus, use plexus on it. Okay, so we have it mounted. It's rock solid. You want to be mindful when you are cutting it and when you are installing it, you need to account that this vent must stay open. This is what helps drive air in to equalize the pressure from behind the screen and in front of the screen. That way it reduces the turbulence. And this is what the screen looks like attached. You can see how high, how tall it is. And this is the OEM screen for reference. And this is what the screen looks like from the side. For me, I'm happy with the results. So if you guys have any questions, please ask in the comments, and I'll be more than happy to share everything that I learned through this process. Have a great